Sometimes the most unsettling crimes are the ones that don't look like crimes at all. No masked intruder, no shattered windows, no frantic screams that wake the neighbors, just a quiet house, a staircase, and a single explanation that feels believable. On a cold December night in 2001, emergency responders were called to a large home in Durham, North Carolina. At the bottom of a narrow staircase, they found a woman lying in a pool of blood. Her husband said she fell. Police believed him, at least at first, but this case would go on to become one of the most debated and controversial true crime stories in modern history, one where the truth seems to split into two completely different realities. This is the story of Kathleen Peterson, and the accident that refuses to stay simple. Kathleen Peterson was not someone people described as careless. She was a senior executive at Nortel Networks, managing large teams and earning a significant income. Friends and colleagues described her as focused, assertive, and organized. She valued structure, she valued honesty, and she valued independence. Kathleen had children from a previous relationship and took her role as a mother seriously. Her life was demanding, but by all appearances, stable. When she married Michael Peterson in 1997, friends saw it as a partnership of equals. Michael was charismatic, intelligent, and articulate. A novelist and former military officer, he knew how to command attention and tell compelling stories. To outsiders, they looked compatible, but compatibility does not always mean transparency. The Peterson home was large, old, and full of character. But the staircase, later infamous, stood out. It was narrow, steep, with hard wooden steps and sharp edges. Unlike modern staircases, there was little margin for error. On the evening of December 8, 2001, Michael later said he and Kathleen spent time outside by the pool, drinking wine and talking. Eventually Kathleen went inside. Michael stayed outside. Hours later he says he found her at the bottom of the stairs. When he called 911 just after 2 a.m., he told the dispatcher Kathleen was still breathing. By the time help arrived, she was dead. The scene shocked even seasoned responders. Blood was everywhere, on the floor, on the walls, on the steps. Yet the rest of the house was calm. No broken furniture, no overturned objects, no signs of a struggle beyond the staircase. At first glance, it looked chaotic, but isolated. Medical professionals immediately noticed contradictions. Kathleen had multiple deep lacerations on her scalp. Yet there was no skull fracture, no broken neck, no defensive injuries. Scalp wounds bleed heavily, but this was extreme. Some investigators believed the blood pattern suggested repeated movement, possibly attempts to stand or reposition herself. Others wondered if the injuries occurred before the fall. The uncertainty set the tone for everything that followed. Initially, police leaned toward accidental death. But as the hours passed, doubt crept in. Why were there injuries on different sides of her head? Why didn't the blood patterns follow a single downward motion? Why did the scene feel staged, but not clumsily? Then investigators looked at Michael more closely. He was calm, composed, almost rehearsed. That alone meant nothing. But background checks revealed something disturbing. Years earlier, while living in Germany, a close family friend had been found dead at the bottom of a staircase. Michael Peterson was the last known person to see her alive. At the time, her death had been ruled accidental. Now investigators faced an uncomfortable question. 2 women, 2 staircases, same man present. Coincidence or pattern? This revelation fundamentally changed how police viewed the case. The idea of an accident began to collapse. As detectives dug deeper, they uncovered Michael's secret online life. Emails, explicit conversations, relationships Kathleen may not have known about. Prosecutors believed Kathleen had discovered these secrets shortly before her death. They theorized confrontation. They theorized rage. They theorized motive. But motive alone is not proof. Still, public opinion began to shift. Michael Peterson was arrested and charged with murder. The trial in 2003 became a media spectacle. The prosecution argued Kathleen was beaten and the staircase was used to stage an accident. The defense argued there was no murder weapon, no skull fracture, and no definitive proof of violence. Experts clashed dramatically. Blood analysts contradicted one another. Medical examiners disagreed publicly. Each side presented confident conclusions based on the same evidence. The jury was left with a single task: decide which version of reality felt more believable. After weeks of testimony, they returned a guilty verdict. Michael Peterson was sentenced to life in prison. For many, the case was closed, but the truth was far from settled. Years later, the case began to unravel. A key forensic expert for the prosecution was exposed for misconduct in multiple cases. Evidence handling was questioned. Past testimonies were re-examined. Confidence in forensic science took a major hit. Michael Peterson was granted a new trial. The foundation of the original conviction had cracked. Facing uncertainty, Michael entered an Alford plea. It allowed him to maintain his innocence while acknowledging prosecutors might still convince a jury. In 2017, after more than a decade behind bars, Michael Peterson walked free. There was no new verdict, no final answer, just unresolved doubt. To this day, theories persist. Some believe Kathleen fell, survived briefly, and succumbed to her injuries. Others believe she was attacked and the scene carefully staged. There are even alternative explanations involving environmental factors and unusual injuries. Each theory explains part of the evidence. None explain all of it. That is what keeps this case alive. This case forces us to confront an uncomfortable reality. Sometimes, the legal system delivers an answer, but not certainty. Sometimes, truth isn't a single straight line. Everyone thought it was an accident. Whether they were wrong, or simply unsure, is a question that may never be answered. If you're drawn to cases where the truth is fractured, debated, and deeply unsettling, subscribe for more long-form true crime, because the most disturbing stories are the ones that never truly end.